Today, me and Reeve are going to look at the inclusions, exclusions, intention, and impact of Social Security to determine whether these policies did more harm or more good.
What is Social Security and how does it work? So Social Security distributes monthly supplementary income payments, disability benefits, retiree benefits, survivor and family benefits, and more. To receive Social Security income, you must pay Social Security taxes. So there's roughly a 5-year incubation period where one starts making Social Security payments before they will then receive Social Security benefits. Amongst other things, Social Security numbers are also used for tracking employment status, income, Medicare, driver's licenses, etc., etc. Social Security payments are made from Social Security Administration trust funds. So when one begins making payments, it gets added to the large pot, and then when they start taking money out, it gets taken from that pot. Roughly $8.7 trillion have been paid into the Social Security funds, and more than $7.4 trillion has been paid out. Social Security began as part of the New Deal in order to provide retirement income and reduce poverty amongst elderly Americans. After the Great Depression starts, poverty amongst elderly Americans has grown dramatically. By 1934, over half of the elderly lack sufficient income to be self-supporting. State welfare pensions at this point in time are practically non-existent. Pre-1930, only 3% of elderly truly receive benefits under state plans, and it's only 65 cents per day. There's really low participation statewide, with restrictive eligibility criteria, some jurisdictions just failing to implement it. In addition, due to the growing movement towards urbanization, lots of extended families are getting left behind, and more people are moving towards a nuclear family model in the city, which means that elderly grandparents and parents no longer have the support of their able-bodied children willing to live with them and support them. Instead, they're moving to their own smaller nuclear families, meaning that elderly support becomes really important.
To pass the act, FDR needed support from Southern Democrats in Congress. Southern lawmakers wanted to exclude agricultural and domestic workers because it protected the Southern labor system that was built and relied on black labor. Because black workers wouldn't get retirement checks, they wouldn't be able to pass down money and build generational wealth because they'd have to spend their savings during retirement. Because of this, their children and their grandchildren would have to keep on taking manual labor jobs, which would benefit the Southern labor systems because they have a constant stream of new, young laborers. Agricultural and domestic workers were excluded, which accounted for about 65% of black workers and 40% of white workers nationwide, which was about 50% of the U.S. workers total. However, these agricultural and domestic workers were concentrated especially in the South and especially among African American populations, with nearly 70 to 80% of black workers in the South being excluded from Social Security. One of the most significant long-term consequences of early Social Security exclusions was their effect on the racial wealth gap. When elderly receive Social Security, they don't have to spend all of their savings just to survive during retirement. That means they can pass their savings down to their children or grandchildren, helping build generational wealth over time. But many black families were excluded from early Social Security programs, so elderly family members often had to rely on their own savings or on support from relatives just to get by. This made it much harder for those families to accumulate and pass down wealth. Later expansions, like the 1939 Family Benefits Program and reforms in 1954, broadened coverage, but policies like the 5-year contribution requirement meant many black workers still struggled to qualify, creating what some historians describe as a kind of policy apartheid. In conclusion, even though early exclusions created significant inequalities, Social Security still established a major nationwide economic safety net. Over time, the program expanded to include many workers who had originally been excluded, especially with the reforms in 1954. By 1982, around 277 million Social Security numbers had been issued. And today, more than 90% of workers are covered by Social Security, showing that despite its unequal beginnings, the program ultimately provided broad economic protection and likely did, and will continue to do, more good than harm overall.
Fuck school, I know the trap can't feel me. Coolin' with a thought in the telly. Smoking on this loud pack, I know you can smell me. Walk in the trap still smelly. Sippin' fake lean, it goes straight to your belly. F&N, watch it sing.